Welcome to the Previously Rockhounding podcast, where we explore the world of rockhounding and lapidary from the ye olden days of the 1970s and 80s through the lens of vintage issues of Rock and Gem magazine.
This is episode 18. We're reading Rock and Gem magazine from December 1979.
If you're a new listener here, the way this works is I read the issue, Sarah reads the issue, we don't discuss it at all, and we come together here on the podcast to share our thoughts on it.
And?
Well, we are closing out the 1970s here on the podcast. Almost. We'll get to that in a little bit here, but December 1979. What do you think of the world of Rock and Gem magazine from the 70s? Do you have any kind of general takeaways?
It's definitely very different. I don't know if Rock and Gem is an accurate representation of the general rock and lapidary world, but there's certainly a lot of silver smithing, casting that isn't done now.
I kind of liked seeing some trends.
Yeah.
We saw the trend of turquoise and kind of going through its rise and fall a little bit. Mm-hmm. We saw a lot of silversmithing, which that was kind of more. That's not a thing that we really experience nowadays. Like when you think of people that are into lapidary, generally silversmithing is not at the top of the list, like it certainly seemed like. Yeah. We saw diamond products come full swing into existence, which I was also kind of neat. But yeah, just generally, I think reading these Rock and Gems has been a very interesting insight into the past. Mm-hmm. Well, we have this one left, and maybe we should jump right into it, and we can close out this period of time and move on to the 80s. There were a number of interesting ads in this issue. There was an ad from Wally Distributing Co. that I thought was really interesting. It read, "Get twice the wear from sanding belts and sanding discs. This amazing new cleaning bar will clean your sanding discs and belts and give them twice the life you're getting now." They were $5.95 each. That's $1979, which that's about $25 in today's money when you adjust for the inflation. I have one of these things. It's really like a giant rubber eraser for silicon carbide, like sanding discs and belts and stuff. They work amazing. But what I thought was interesting is you can buy them right now on Amazon for $7 for a really big one. Mine, I think it was $3.99. This seems like this might be one of the first instances of this. They are a great product. I would not spend $25. Well, maybe I would. I don't know.
Does it really give you twice the life of your belt?
I think that's actually an understatement. I think it probably gives more than double, easily more than double. It's foolish to not use them. So I just thought that was neat that usually these kind of statements that we see in the ads, they're very like over the top. Mm-hmm. You're getting double. I would say 3-4 times probably. Now, I don't know if nowadays the adhesive that we have on like silicon carbide belts hold the silicon carbide better, so using the eraser just works better. So maybe that's part of it, and back then it wasn't as good, but I have no way of really knowing that.
Yeah, I think this was the first time that product has been advertised. I noticed, made a note of it, and I was just going to ask you if I thought you had something like that. So a lot of the products don't exist anymore, like the more gimmicky, like twice the life of your whatever, but I guess that one does.
Still, though, people don't know about them, it seems like, and definitely don't use them in the same way that they used to. I mean, also, these belts that we use for the polishing shaping of rocks, they're far cheaper now than they used to be, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It definitely feels a little bit more disposable than perhaps it once was. Like, I think my cost per sanding disc for my Richardson's Ranch high-speed sander. It's something like 50 cents a disc, and I kind of just like chuck them when they wear out. That's the nice thing with them. I haven't seen any round sanding discs for sale in this magazine, but I'm gonna assume that they're way cheaper now than they were back then.
I've not really. I did note that ad, but I didn't notice very many interesting ads. A lot of the products I kind of gloss over because they all blended together at this point. There was some ads for, I don't know, less things you wouldn't think they would be advertising for. There was an ad for Russian stone carvings, and it was like gypsum and selenite carved things. It was like one of them was 2 lovebirds on a stone stump for $15.
Was there a picture of it or no?
No, there wasn't a picture. But if you look on eBay, there's a ton on eBay. So I guess it's a thing. Like, there was some sort of factory in the Soviet Union pumping out selenite and gypsum carvings, and there you can get like 2 little. They're really small. They're like a couple inches, like 3 or 4 inches. They go for about $40 on eBay. So because they're vintage. They're from the 70s.
Oh, these are vintage ones that you're talking about on eBay. Okay, I thought maybe Union. There was like somebody producing like replicas of them.
There's a ton on eBay, so there must have been a huge amount in the 70s that they still exist in abundance today.
There was an ad from a company that I believe we've seen this ad before. It was from a tour company, and they had a really nice illustration of the ad was like a miner collecting rocks. You know, it's just like an
old-timey miner, almost like a gold miner,
like a 79er, like out in California swinging a pick.
A donkey behind him or something.
We never bring our donkey rockhounding. No. The ad was for geological expeditions to Mexico with monthly departures for individuals or groups. They had an incentive plan for clubs, group trips to Africa, Brazil, and other parts of the world available for different organizations. They gave no prices, because why would you? But the thing that kind of stood out to me was they have an incentive plan for clubs. What does that actually look like for them to have I assume like they're talking about rock clubs.
Yeah.
So what could that even be? What would...
Like you sign up your club to go. Each person who signs up, the club gets a little kickback.
I guess.
Something like that would be the incentive. I don't know. At first I thought that just meant like group discount.
But if it's a club it's got to be some type of like kickback to the club if you got 20 people.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I've been reading a lot of old club newsletters, and oh my gosh, everybody seems so much more adventuresome back in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s than they do now, which...
I was like, I can't imagine a club going on a club trip to Mexico, Africa, or Brazil. Like, now you're like, okay, we're going to go on a field trip for our club, and people are like, I can't drive more than 30 minutes away from town.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, Sarah is not exaggerating right here. People really are, I don't know, they're just not very adventuresome. In a recent newsletter that I read, there's a rockhounding location that is up in British Columbia that you have to take a boat to. So a club located in Washington State in America, everybody caravanned up there, brought their boats, and shuttled people to the location. And I'm like, I can't imagine any of the clubs that we've interacted with, people being like, yes, we're going to bring the boat, we're going to set up a shuttle, and doing all... No, you got to cross into Canada. Yeah, we can't even get people to drive an hour sometimes to go rockhounding, let alone flying to Africa.
I mean, there are people who will go out to lots of places, but most club trips are really easy picking. Like, we're driving to the spot and then you get out and you're there. They're not take a week plus, I would assume, and fly across the continent.
I would do it. if there was an organization offering rockhounding trips to Africa, would you go?
It seems like it'd be sketchy.
That's why you go with like a tour guide. I mean, it's also sketchy when they do those tours to like game parks in Africa, and they're like, "Here's a lion right next to you." You're just sitting in a Jeep taking pictures with other people taking pictures. How is that any more?
I don't know. They're like, we got to drive out here to the mine. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Here we go. And then they're like, poaching humans.
I don't know. I don't think that happens. Yes. But yeah, I think that'd be really cool if there was an organization offering those types of trips.
I assume there is.
I've never found one. I know Bob Jackson takes people to like Spain.
Yeah.
I think he takes people to Spain. I don't know.
Yeah. We've seen a few ads for tours.
Yeah.
Not really a thing now.
Well, we'll have to eventually look at some modern rock and gem and see if there's any tour companies being like, we'll take you to Norway, Scotland, tours around the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Maybe there is. I would like to go to those places for rocks. Those places have amazing rocks. Well, amazing minerals. They have amazing minerals.
I only have one more ad. Do you have some more?
No, I got two more. You read your what do you got?
Well, there's a couple ads in this magazine for other magazines. One of which we will talk about later. But then there was a mineralogical record, which we will touch on later. But then there was this other ad, and did you take the pictures yet? You'll have to take a picture of this one. Did you take a picture of this ad? Because it's a kitten with like its mouth is open, like it's meowing, and I think there's a gem in its mouth, and it has a giant tag that says the Leverite Ledger around its neck, and then it says, "We want you."
Yes.
And it is an. Should I read the ad? It was a
read the ad.
Good copy. And the ad said, "We want you to be excited by the action-packed Rockhound adventures stories. Be amused with the humor. Enjoy the informative rock, gem, mineral, and mining articles published quarterly in this new and exciting publication. Subscribe now, only $3 a year."
Did you happen to see the one that's for sale on eBay?
Yes, it did not live up to my expectations.
Well, I love the artwork. So if you go to currentlyrockhounding.com/podcast and you go to show 18, in the gallery for there, I will include what this issue looks like that is being sold on eBay for $30.
Maybe I didn't look at the inside of it enough, because I think I kind of looked at the article.
That's all they really had.
Oh, well, I guess I didn't see what you're seeing.
Well, the artwork on the cover is very cool. It's like that classic like 70s vintage style like coloration of like oranges and yellows. It looks great. I would love it. Not for $30 though. I threw a lowball offer at the eBay seller in preparation for this podcast to see if I could get a copy, and they said no. So no Leverite Ledger for us.
Surprisingly expensive for what I'm assuming is an incredibly obscure magazine.
Yeah, I've seen no records of this thing anywhere. I haven't been able to find anything on like, I think it's like Worth Point or any type of like archives mentioning it. It seemed like it probably had very small distribution at best, and I don't even know how many issues they produced.
Yeah.
Also, a handful of them probably.
The article titles did not draw me in, and some of them were just like DNR bulletins. Yeah. Like they didn't even have enough articles. They really drew me in with this kitten, and then when well, there's
a cat on the cover.
Oh,
so
$3 though, $3 a year, probably wouldn't have been disappointed.
I have an ad that I would like to talk about, and it is for a trim saw. So trim saw being your standard 6-inch style trim saw, like many people still have today. It was from Rock's Lapidary Equipment in Texas, which I have one of their fixtures for holding slabs. It's very, very cool. I like that in their casting of aluminum, they would take those old embossed label makers where it makes, like prints out a type of little label and it's embossed. And they would put that in the casting sand. So you can very obviously see, like, they would put their name on it. And I'm like, oh, like it's very like low budget, but like kind of cool as well. So they had a 6-inch saw made of cast aluminum, $139.50 in 1979 dollars, which when you adjust it for inflation, it's $578, which is almost identical to the two main competitor 6-inch saws today from Highland Park Lapidary being like slightly more, and High-Tech Diamond being slightly cheaper. So I've always find it really interesting when the machines have like basically perfectly matched inflation. There's always been this kind of, I guess, like narrative in the lapidary world of like, oh, it's so expensive. And I agree that these machines, the stuff can be very expensive, but it's been very expensive for decades and decades. And, you do have to kind of factor in other things like how have incomes kept up with it. There's a lot of stuff to kind of factor in, but yeah, I mean, the machines are pretty much the same, at least up until December 1979. As we push into the 80s, maybe we'll see that change some. Are we going to see a separation of machines tracking inflation today?
I don't know. Yeah, I would think it probably follow the trend and just follow inflation. But
Well, you're going to have to keep coming back for more episodes of the previously Rockhounding podcast and find out. The Glory Hole this month, which is the editor's column, had a contest in it with the prize being a 1-year subscription to Rock and Gem. They showed a photo, and if you could guess where the photo was taken and then write it down and mail it to them, or mail it into the editor, the first person to cross the editor's desk with the correct answer would win that year's subscription. This is definitely not something that you could do today. It took me about 1 minute to find the exact location using Google.
Right.
I assume you also found the location?
Yes.
How long did it take you, and how did you find it?
I just used Google Lens.
Yeah.
I don't know, it took me a while because I was like, the picture is them standing in front of some sort of kind of column thing and then mountains behind them. And it took me a while to be like, are these the same mountains? And I couldn't tell if they looked the same, but then when I looked at what it was, I was like, well, it's obviously the same.
I immediately knew that they were in California.
Yes, that was obvious.
They
don't go much further than California.
Yeah, but it's that classic Sierra's background.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what it is, or
I only wrote down the name.
what's the name of the place?
Manzanar?
Yeah.
It was a... I don't
It was a cemetery, a historical site near Independence, California, for a monument and cemetery for the Japanese internment camps. So, yeah, it's still there today. You can go visit it. It looks very beautiful, and it looks slightly more kept up in their photo that they had in the magazine than it does today.
Yeah, there was some trees by it then, and now there doesn't seem to be any trees.
I mean, they could have also just died. I don't know.
Yeah, but you got to replant them.
Yeah, but yes.
You got to keep up the stuff.
Yeah, it's just, it reminded me a little bit of so many of the bits that are in a show like Seinfeld, where you're like, this cannot happen today. Because there's so much leaving a message on an answering machine and you missed it. And then because of these circumstances, Or, oh, I'm going to wait in the line for the movie, and you're going to go get, like, go over to the cafe and see if this person's there, and then, like, ships passing in the night. But now you just, like,
Yeah.
text and you're
Yeah.
like, when are you going to be here? I'm buying the tickets.
Yes. Or you're like, I already bought the tickets online.
Yeah.
Yes.
No more answering machines, no more things like that. No more figure out where this photo is taken. When you used Google Lens to identify it, did it pop up right away?
I think so. Well, it popped up some other photos of similar, like, black and white, like, desert with mountains behind it, but that's pretty unique looking memorial sculpture. After that, maybe there was something before it, but the glory hole became a little frantic fumbler-y, and I didn't really get it. Like, it was just trying to put some filler in, talking about Chick-a-Lick, chicken-flavored ice cream franchise.
I didn't get that.
Yeah. Was that like a joke? Like something we didn't get because we weren't around?
I have no idea.
1979? What a weird filler. It was just like a paragraph.
Yeah.
Like, you can't think of anything else to say? Or it's just like an inside joke and he's like, ha, this is funny. I'm going to print this.
Maybe. There's a number of things with this issue where I kind of struggled a little bit with it. And the Frantic Fumbler this month, I kind of struggled reading it. It really, like, the writing style, it was just like it's very all over the place. Like, he talked about the struggles of writing his column and a jewelry class that he signed up for. But sometimes the writing style, it's not like smooth, you know? It's not something, how to say it? If you were to read it out loud, it would come off as like really disjointed. And sometimes I think when you write stuff, if you don't go back through your writings a second time, they can also sound disjointed. So I wonder if he would just like pound out the column and be like, done.
Yeah, there was definitely in this issue, I kind of had to look past the content in order to get something out of it. Because, I mean, I found, I picked out interesting things out of the articles or the columns, but it wasn't maybe the content or the intention of the article that I found interesting.
I agree. Yeah.
Are we done with Glory Hole?
Yes.
Oh. Okay, Frantic Fumbler. I thought it was it was like he's talking and then his like demonic being is adding its own comments after his things he says, and it didn't really work very well.
Is the Frantic Fumbler column actually just documenting somebody's descent into madness?
Yes, maybe. What I thought was interesting was he said he was trying to like learn some new skills in lapidary, and he was like, well, I don't need to take like a community college like class, like I'm past that level. So he took an actual college class about jewelry making, where he said he was going to class 6 hours a week, he had homework, and I wonder how he accessed that, because we can't just go take a college class. I mean, if you're in Washington and you're over a certain age, you can audit a college class, which
How old?
I don't know, like 60. But I don't know how that works, because if it's like a jewelry making class, normally auditing is like you sit in the back and you just like are there and you don't take the test, you don't actually get a grade. So if it's a jewelry making class, I don't know if they would let you like use the equipment, because you're not paying any sort of fees. But I don't think was taking advantage of that perk of being a Washington resident. So like, how did he take first of all, do they offer jewelry making in college now?
I don't know about that. But haven't community colleges kind of shifted what they actually are over time? I mean,
I don't know.
I think like your community colleges back in the 70s had served slightly a different function than they do now. I mean, nowadays, yeah, people will go to community college and get like a degree, but for many people, it's a stepping stone to like a state university or the next college. Like you're getting your required classes knocked out at a fraction of the price of fancy school. But my loose understanding, which might be entirely wrong, is that community colleges that were in like the 60s and 70s performed more like community function. You know, like there was night classes that were not necessarily part of like a track to getting your bachelor's degree as much as it was, oh, you're going to go and like there's a teacher in quotations from the community and you're learning this skill that you can then utilize, and maybe it's not a credited thing. I don't know. I think that kind of I think that
kind of makes sense.
Kind of it.
Still, I don't know how he was just taking a college class. Like now you'd be like, what, you'd have to like apply to go to the college and then take a class? I haven't heard of any sort of program for taking a college class without being a college student.
It almost seems a little bit more like how some maker spaces will put on classes where you just show up and you pay your money and that's a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was cool. Yeah. I'd love to take some college classes and have homework. And
in jewelry?
Maybe not jewelry.
What would you take a college class in?
I guess maybe I wouldn't be very motivated if it wasn't an actual skill or a credit.
I would take a college class in mineral identification.
I don't know if you'd have to go to the Gemological Institute.
I'd take a college level class in zeolites of the Pacific Northwest. Unfortunately, I'd probably have to be the one that would be teaching it because nobody cares about those.
Yes.
We got one more column. Shop talk. Investing in diamonds. I am all about investing in cheap chemical vapor deposition diamonds. I have more diamonds in my possession now than ever before. I just purchased about 300 carats of diamonds.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's a decent amount of diamonds.
Did you look at them under the microscope?
No, they're all smashed into dust because they're very fine. So the way...
Even under the microscope?
Yeah, it's like looking at dust.
Oh.
Like it's not a thing to pay that much attention to.
I didn't really read. I really skimmed the shop talk. I usually do, and this one seemed very irrelevant to me, so I don't have much. I don't have anything to say about it.
Since they're talking about investing in diamonds, it's obviously all about diamonds. So the shop talk was about making your own copper diamond lap. So you're spinning flat lap disc. They describe the process of taking a copper disc and cutting lines in it that radiate from the center out. So like spokes on a wheel. And if you take a knife or like a box cutter and you score something, you're actually upsetting the material. You're making this groove and the material has to go somewhere and it goes up, right? Like you're making this like little trough wedge thing. They then talk about taking the diamond powder and pushing it into those little grooves and burnishing that lip over it now. So you made a trench, packed diamonds in it, and then kind of like pushed some of the upsetted copper over it. So now you're holding the diamonds in place, which is, in theory, would work. It's something that I would like to try. I don't know where to get like a copper plate like that, but I'm sure I can find something. I think it'd be interesting to do it and see how well it actually works. I'm definitely the reason I was talking about having a bunch of diamonds is because I've been experimenting with making my own diamond products, because you can get 300 carats of diamonds, CVD diamonds, for about $50. And since we're on the topic, to give you an idea, a cabochon machine wheel, like a 6-inch wheel, has about 5 to 10 carats of diamond. So, very, very cheap. And that's modern retail prices. So we're back in a time period where this kind of wide availability of diamonds had just recently really hit the market, and now they're so cheap that if you make a mistake with modern diamond products, it's like, whatever. It's like I used $2 of my diamonds. But interesting to see. That's probably one of the more, since we kind of already talked a little bit about some of the 70s trends, I thought it was cool to start this, and everything's like silicon carbide, corundum wheels, like old tech that they've been using since like the 40s, and then it's now it's diamond time, which I never something I really thought of. That at some point we got cheap diamonds. And that concludes all of the columns for this issue. We do have a number of articles. Since this is December, it is a lapidary Christmas. And as usual, we skipped the lapidary Christmas article because it is a bunch of ads.
Yeah, it's not really an article.
It's bribery.
It's like a roundup of things that got sent to them. A lot of them, they're like, we have this in our shop. And it's like a whole paragraph about a product and where to buy it.
They never say anything bad.
Yeah. This one didn't have very many pictures either. I felt like previous years there was like pictures.
There's definitely more.
There was other things that weren't just like, oh, this guy sells rocks in this shop in Kansas. Here's the address. Or, oh, here's this machine that does this thing. Like there was also some more kind of out there stuff, and I didn't really see that. But I didn't read it too closely because it's kind of boring.
That's pretty much what the lapidary Christmas is in every issue. It's just a bunch of little mini ads.
It was interesting the first time.
Yeah, it's definitely
after that. It's not. It
got
hasn't
a
been
little less
interesting. But we did have a Christmas related do it yourself article.
Yeah, how to make Christmas trinkets.
Yes.
It's easy to build up on usual Yuletide silver jewelry, and often with these Christmas articles, they talk about the rush to get everything done in time, which this was kind of no exception. Get everything done in time, and that has always been like a common theme or trope that I've seen played out like in movies and obviously in this and elsewhere, and that has never ever been my personal experience. I would say I think for Christmas gifts, I have everything picked out in October, and everything's purchased in November for the most part. Like, I remember growing up, and you'd see like in the news people waiting in line, like at department stores and things. I never did that. Did you ever wait in line and like have a mad rush to get a Christmas gift?
No.
Or make a Christmas gift?
Yeah. Maybe I feel like sometimes, I've made things for you like the few days before Christmas. I'm like, I need to be in this room with the door closed for a few hours.
Well, I guess.
But I don't really count that because you're always here. So I don't really. If I had the time, I would have done it.
Well, I guess you can relate to the mad rush to get your Christmas trinkets done. I cannot. But this article, pretty simple. It was a wax casting article making little tiny ornaments, or I guess an ornament of like a Santa head, a wreath, which, I mean, from the perspective of making something, I mean, seems fairly simple and obtainable.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a decent gift. You make it yourself, it's unique. People can use it as an ornament, and then they just put it away with their Christmas. It's not a burden to keep.
Yeah. And there's no obligation, really. I mean, well, maybe there would be an obligation if that person that gave it to you was coming over during the holidays and like to see it, but that's very different than like jewelry.
Yeah. I mean, the obligation is you put it on your tree for 2 days to 1 month, however long you have your tree up, which is, much less than, oh, you're going to go to a party where Bob's at and Bob gave you a necklace. So like, you better wear that necklace. Like,
yeah. I like the idea of like a casting in general. But as a non-jewelry wearer, I don't have much use for it. But the idea of making Christmas ornaments casted, I don't know if I would do silver because silver costs so much money nowadays. Cast them out of lead. You want to use your ultra heavy lead Christmas ornament. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a fun little article. Not a whole lot of meat to that.
No,
Did you have any other comments on it?
No, I mean, they're all all of the Lost Wax ones are kind of the same.
Yeah, it's...
you get the kind of the shape of the thing and you do the Lost Wax and there's your thing.
Yeah, you're making a mold and
Yeah.
then pouring metal
Yeah.
into it for the most part. Right after that, though, we have a field trip. Palmwood in the Hector Hills. Somehow everyone has overlooked an easy location.
I didn't like this article.
Why didn't you like this article?
They never told us where they were. They never, I mean, it's obvious because we read Rock and Gem, they're in California. They never said they're in California.
Well, there's a little map.
It didn't say they were in California. Did you look at the map and try to find it?
Yeah.
I couldn't find it.
So
the map was very poorly drawn, in my opinion.
yeah, so I agree with you there.
So they're talking about going and finding petrified palm wood, which is not like normal petrified wood. It's got little bits in it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And the only photo they had was black and white, even though on like the next page they had color photos. So I had a hard time knowing.
So it's a trip that they took to this palmwood deposit, like Sarah said, which is east of Barstow, California, and to the south of the Caddy Mountains. So that's the orientation that we got here.
Just imagine if you were like living on the East Coast and you're like, oh yeah, Barstow, the Caddy Mountains, and then like you're gonna pull out your like atlas and
yeah, they could have. Well, maybe you should have pulled out your atlas, because unlike many other field trips that we've read, this one actually gave the range and township to the site in the article.
They did. I did like that. That was the one thing I liked.
That's good. But the article, it kind of ended in an odd way.
Yeah.
Did you write down the oddness?
No.
So it read, as you glean from these gem fields, please take a moment to reflect. Envision the pioneers and their famished families and livestock. Listen carefully, and you may hear the agonized whimper of a hungry dog or the cry of horror and fright of a mother with child as she faces westward in a last desperation hope.
Yeah, that's kind of spooky.
What is this, like, kind of lighthearted article about palmwood really was like,
don't forget to hear the cries of your people who came before you, and their spirits haunt till this day.
If we were out like digging petrified wood and I heard like an agonizing whimper of a hungry dog, like, and there's no dogs around, like we can see everything, like, we gotta go. clearly this dig site is haunted by hungry dogs.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, was it?
There was one of the weirder ends to an article.
And then it said the Ranger Township at the very end.
Yes.
Didn't it?
Yeah.
They're like, by the way, here's where we are. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, maybe I should explain what Range and Township is. Have we done that on here? Have we talked about Range and Township?
I don't know.
Since this is 1979 and there's no GPS satellites, Range and Township was the system of kind of locating on maps through like your range and township and then sections so that you could, find pinpoints on maps. So in theory, you would have that map for that area, and then you could be like range 34, township 20, section, northeast section, and you can kind of narrow it down to within a couple hundred feet, which that's...
The numbers all were different. Nothing overlapped. It wasn't like state by state or anything.
Good
because all the numbers are always really low.
Yeah, it's... I don't know how they divided it up, because when I do range and township, there's converters online, because I go through these old publications, and there's converters, but you select the state. So it must be by state, and then you like go through and you input all the things.
They just never said where they were. If you were like, I want to find this, range and township doesn't help you if you didn't know the state.
Also, if you don't know where the Caddy Mountains or Barstow.
I tried to find where they were, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
Because their map didn't have a road name.
It had the Caddy Mountains listed, so you would have had to have known what the Caddy Mountains are.
I didn't know exactly.
Southern California.
Yeah. But even with Google Maps now, I'm like, I'm going to see where they are. And like their road wasn't named. And they're like, the town of whatever is this direction. And you're like, but how many miles? Where are you telling me to get off the free? It was not the best.
Very true. I agree.
But now back to Christmas.
Yes. How to make a mark for Christmas. A gift project for the person who has everything. And I actually really like this one. I like this, with many of these kind of like gift idea articles. I just, in my opinion, it's just often very like not something I would ever give or be into, I don't know. We've seen some really kind of like out there like little projects, but with this one, I did like it. I could see myself making something like this and receiving something like this and enjoying it. As somebody who loves books, having a cool bookmark would be pretty fun.
Yes, so it's making a bookmark, making your mark a bookmark.
It's pretty much a, flattened piece of silver that's, I don't know, probably like an inch wide by 6 inches long, very thin, probably rolled out or just purchased like that. And then soldered a bezel that they inserted a cabochon, and there's a little tassel. And that would be what you'd be...
It had a tassel?
Yeah, it had a tassel.
Oh.
They didn't really talk about it, but in the picture, in one of the pictures, it had a tassel. But I don't think you'd really need it. But I like the idea of, you have your book, and then there's like a cab sticking out the top. Kind of a more fun, easy, low-effort silver project on like the lost wax and all the silver. I mean, it's really like cut out a piece of silver, put a bezel on it, and slap a cab on it, and then you're like, bookmark.
And it had a little shape under the cab. It looked like a book under the cab in silver, and so you put the cab over it and...
Did it?
Yeah, I think yeah.
I'm drawing a blank now.
Yes, it did.
Well,
which I thought was interesting because I don't usually see a shape under a cab. It's usually just the back.
Either way, I thought it was kind of a more interesting project, and maybe another thing that you really wouldn't see nowadays. I mean, how many? I don't know. I feel like nobody reads
Yes.
People don't read like they used to.
Let alone a book needing a bookmark.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I have an extensive collection of books. I love cracking open a book. If I got you one of these, how would you use it with your Kindle?
I don't think I would use it with the Kindle.
Well,
The only issue I had with that article was the very first page was they made the bookmark from like looked like it was as a serving knife, and that was like the main picture with the article.
yeah, I
And
didn't.
it's like, wait, we're making this knife? No, we're hammering out this knife into a bookmark. Why not lead with the bookmark?
Yeah.
But yeah, you should make one next time you see anybody mention they read books. Be like, now I know what to get you for Christmas.
I still just got to figure out how to make this thing work with a Kindle. Moving right along, Franklin Revisited. This classic New Jersey location is a classic for fluorescent minerals. And this is an article describing the famous UV mineral locality. Before I share my thoughts, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, maybe you should just, I took a fair amount of notes. It didn't really feel like it fit with the Rock and Gem articles. There was only 2 photos in the whole thing. So the author of the article had already written a book on this location, and then he was like, somebody else wrote a book about it now, and here's what's happened since I wrote my book, and that was kind of the gist of it.
Well, I must say that this locality is amazing. Like, I know a decent amount as a West Coaster of this New Jersey location. I know a decent amount. I would love to go there. Huge variety of UV reactive minerals. They got an amazing museum. They're doing all kinds of great work there. Recently, I know that at the museum on site, they got a Raman spectroscope. So they're doing Raman analysis work there now. Amazing. I would love to go there. Maybe we can take a New Jersey vacation. We'll be the first people in history to take a vacation to New Jersey.
Yes.
But one thing said in this article was there is no reason to believe that the Franklin will not exceed 300 species soon. The article says, excuse me. Also, the article says that the Franklin ore body has 284 known species. Well, this calls into many things into question. Currently, MnDAT lists the location as having 256 valid minerals, 49 type locality minerals, and 6 first recorded locality minerals.
I thought I looked on MnDAT and there was 350. How did you get a different number?
Well, we both can't be right.
Because I wrote that down too, and I was like, "Oh, let me see." And then I was like, 350. They were right."
So I
You probably know how to use MnDAT better than I do.
I definitely question some of the things in this article. It is a location that, it's like trying to think of other notable locations where there's been more things, or the number expanded and then shrunk of minerals. I can't think of it. Place in Africa, whatever. Popular locality. I'll think of Sueb. Sueb is an example of that. Well, who knows now? That I was like, I'm questioning everything in this article, but you came up with different numbers.
I don't know.
than me,
Maybe I
so,
was looking at something different on Mindat. He was definitely very excited about the place, and it was almost like sensationally excited. Like,
I would love to go to the Franklin location. I would love it. So if you're in New Jersey and you're listening to this, you better go there and enjoy that you have something that cool. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They have like, let's just round. We're just gonna say 300. They get like 300-ish different species at this location, which is mind blowing. Like that is, it lives up to the hype.
yeah, I mean, you can go there now. They do the Sterling Hill mine, has tours where you go into the mine. The mentioned in the article, the Franklin Augustenberg Mineralogical Society newsletter called The Picking Table, which all of them are available online. When I looked them up, the articles were very academic, serious sounding.
Yeah.
They weren't. Yes, they're very serious sounding. You can buy a print of their newsletter, which was basically like a 20-page magazine with like full color photos for $10, or you can just look at a PDF of every single one ever. Or if you're like, I only want to know about this one mineral, they had a drop down and you could select the mineral and it'd be like, yo, mentioned in this article in this year and this issue. Here's the link.
I love it. I love it when clubs and organizations do things like that. It makes it so accessible. It's so nice to see.
Yes, it's very impressive.
Maybe when we finish the previously Rockhounding podcast, we should do the previous Rock Club newsletter podcast, and we just read old newsletters, good and bad.
I don't know if I could get through theirs. It was like, even the titles was like, I don't really know what those mean, and I'm not really interested in reading that.
Yeah, maybe not that one.
Yeah.
Maybe not that one. The next article I really liked, even though it was very, very short. It was more like a little artist snippet. Agate and needlepoint. I actually was following somebody on Instagram, I believe, and she was doing this exact same thing. And I was like, whoa, that's super cool. I've never seen that before, of doing needlepoint work of like minerals and agates and stuff. So agate in needlepoint, trying to capture agate's wild patterns and colors, keep Madeline in stitches.
Yeah.
What? You don't like that?
Why not make it like an artist profile like they usually do with people who do rock stuff? They're just like, it's just like, here's this lady and she took one of the covers of Rock and Gem and used that as a inspiration to do the needlepoint of an agate, and she puts them on pillows and
Do you want to explain what needlepoint is?
Do we need to explain what it is?
I don't know. Maybe people don't know what needlepoint is.
It's where you just do different stitches with needles and thread, and that's your picture.
It's like you take a piece of fabric and it's stretched tight in a frame, and usually I think people draw something on with a pencil that you kind of you have a design, and then you use colored thread and a needle, and you make that.
And she's capturing the lines in the agates,
but there was only it was 3 very short paragraphs.
Yeah, they didn't talk to her at all. There was no quote from her being like, I first saw this, blah, blah, blah.
It looked pretty good.
I mean, they look good.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, there's this many thousands of stitches per
46,
inch.
it was like a piece that she had about 46,000 stitches or something.
Yeah, so obviously she's put a lot of time into it. I don't know. I was just disappointed that why not
I thought they should have done a lot more with it, because agates are popular, they're colorful, and you have somebody doing kind of cool art of it, which, I mean, people still do cool, rock and mineral themed art. With the help of Instagram, I've found a number of people that are doing, beautiful drawings of minerals and doing different stuff. And, I think things like that are really cool. And, to have something that's kind of, I don't know, if you had an amazing like rock or mineral and somebody did a beautiful like colored pencil drawing of it, and then you had it and it was framed and like next to the thing, like I don't know, that's I like that type of stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I wish it was a little bit more in depth than they gave the treatment to. Is this our last one?
This is
Field trip. Witchin' Wood.
You can douse for wood in Wyoming's Blue Forest. Was the sigh conveyed here? This is a trip report about the Blue Forest in Wyoming, which is a very notable location where you can
prolific, very prolific.
Yeah,
a lot
almost every single rock show we've ever been to, in one of the display cases, somebody's got a piece from there. It is really cool. It's on my bucket list. So it's petrified wood, and the petrified wood kind of has like cracks in it, and those cracks have been filled with this light blue chalcedony. Right, it varies, but like light blue to this like light blue kind of spectrum. Looks awesome. The pieces that we've seen that's cut and polished, amazing. Well, this article, it recounts someone seeing someone else using witching rods to locate the petrified wood, and then they went on to explain the process of what that was, and then they offered to locate a log underground using the dowsing rods that were made from coat hangers. So for those of you that don't know, the process of dowsing, it's like 2 L-shaped wires in your hands, and then whatever you're thinking of at the time, and you walk above it, they cross, and that's like where the thing is, and usually it's used for water, like, and that, there's been a whole lot of like well-organized academic studies on this, and it's not real.
No.
It doesn't do anything. It's fake. All real? Fake. 100% fake.
Well,
it's like a Ouija board and a crystal ball and Bigfoot and a chupacabra. It's all make-believe.
Well, the quote I liked from the article was the guy using the rod said, "The rods are never wrong, but you never know how deep you have to dig."
Which is the out.
Yes. And the story from the author is he's digging and he doesn't find very much. Somebody else is digging and they find some pretty good stuff. The guy with the dowsing rods comes over and he's like, "Find me a spot." And the guy's like, "Okay." And so he does. And he's like, "Here's the spot." And he like walks backwards and forwards over it. And he's like, "Yep, the rods are connecting right here." And right there is the spot where the whole of the people who had been finding really good stuff. And what do you know it? He digs in the hole where people have been finding good stuff, and he finds some good stuff.
I understand people's desire to, like, want something almost magical, like, in your hands. And we're lucky that nowadays we do have something magical that can be in your hands. It's called a cell phone. You have the entire collective knowledge of all of humanity accessible in your pocket. It's like science fiction. It's an amazing thing. It's amazing. Dowsing rods, your bent coat hangers, are not that. They're not. There's just no. They've been widely disproven.
The author at the end was like, "I don't think they really work, but I did find some pieces of petrified wood where the guy told me I would."
It hurts. It hurts to think that. I don't know. I would consider myself a person of science, and I'm like, things that like that, if it was provable, they would have proved it, and nobody has managed to prove it. There's been like some great tests done for like the location of gold, the location of water, where like, they have 50 like containers and a gold nugget, like a big gold nugget in it, and it's in a tent, and nobody can see, and then the person places it, leaves the entire site, and then an observer watches where the dowsing rods land, and they have like pretty much an amazing fail rate.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just a random guessing.
It's too bad April Fool's just passed. We could go to Saddle Mountain.
Start dowsing.
It sounded like where they were, it was pretty much as easy picking as Saddle Mountain.
Yeah, Saddle Mountain here in Washington State, it's like you have to try to not find petrified wood. Like,
what if Leica had the dowsing rod?
oh, how? Yeah, I don't know. We'll
I don't
see.
know if she could hold two.
Well, do you have any other thoughts on dowsing?
No.
And with that, we are almost out of the 1970s, except we are going to be stepping away from Rock and Gem for the next podcast. We will be looking at one of their competitors, the Mineralogical Record.
Is it a competitor if they advertise in Rock and Gem?
Probably not. We're going to be looking at the Mineralogical Record, Volume 5, Number 4, from August 1974, because they put out 6 a year.
Yeah, I was just an intro to Mineralogical Record. They actually advertised in Rock and Gem, and they call themselves a magazine strictly for mineral collectors, packed with in-depth articles about minerals and mineral localities, lavishly illustrated with fine photos, how-to articles, and more. Which sounds similar to Rock and Gem, but judging from the covers and the few I flipped through, I don't think that it's going to be similar.
Well, I must say I'm a little biased. I love the Mineralogical Record. I love it. I love the old ones, the new ones, and the books and the supplements and their website and everything about them. So,
Well, a lot to look forward to on the next episode.
And then right after that, we're moving into the 1980s. Next time.
There's no words on the cover of the Mineralogical Record. It's
You'll
just a picture.
You'll have to find out next time.